Some reactions, some takeaways to round 5 of the URC. Really entertaining weekend's worth of rugby, and I think there's some bones to pick out of it, which is what I'm going to do now. And if you, like me, love this competition, help me spread the word about just how good it is by dropping a thumbs up on the video. Takes you no time, costs you no money, but really helps, as does a comment down below. So those were the results of my predictions for the round. I got 6 out of 8 correct. I did predict that 3 South African teams would win, but I thought the one that might lose, I thought it could be Stormers to Munster. But actually, Stormers put in a really strong performance. I'll come to that. And it was the Bulls. I mean, you'd have got very good money on predicting that the Bulls would be the one South African team that didn't get a win, with wins for Lions, Sharks, Stormers, Edinburgh, Leinster, Benetton, Ulster and Scarlets. I will run through each of those, but some general takeaways before I get there. And first, and I didn't really talk about this last week, because I thought, do you know what? I'll wait and see if the red card last week was to David Creel. I mean, I mentioned I didn't agree with the decision. It got rescinded in the end, but I didn't really talk about it too much last week because I thought, do you know what? It's a one-off weekend. Let's just see how it goes. But more controversial officiating decisions, and it wasn't even the red card decision here for Johan Grobbelaar or yellow card decisions in other games. Just generally, okay, and without talking about any specific incident, I think generally I'm ready to just flag up and wave the flag and say the officiating in the URC is not good enough. Now, I'm in England. I'm a massive fan of the Premiership, and I've said, and some people disagree with me, but that's absolutely fine. It's just my belief. The Premiership has the best referees, generally speaking. No referee's immune to making mistakes, and for that reason, I think we should be sympathetic. Rugby's about the hardest sport to officiate. They're out there on their own with a million different things to look at, but the URC needs to step up. It's not good enough. And that's not me trying to criticise the refs specifically. That's me trying to say there might be something about the way the URC operates or supports refs or what it asks of them. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of times I'm sort of scratching my head or wondering what's going on. And a lack of consistency is part of it. So anyway, let me park that and say that another takeaway is Leinster are out on their own. They are 5 wins from 5, and they comfortably look the best team in this competition, and they look like they've had enough of losing and they've got the bit between their teeth. So all the pain of the last few years might be being taken out on the field right now. They look very, very good. Elsewhere, everyone's bunching in the middle. You've only got 2 teams that are unbeaten, the Lions and Leinster, who play each other next weekend. So only one team's going to be unbeaten after that, or at least unless they draw, of course. But generally speaking, teams are beating each other. Sometimes when you expect, sometimes when you don't expect, and that's having a bit of I think between, what is it, 4th and 14th, or 3rd and 4th. I can't see the numbers from here. I need glasses, I think. But there's one win catapults you up the table or drops you right back down. And that's a really good place for the URC to be. So, on to the actual specific games then. And yes, I mentioned the officiating overall. I do think that's something the URC need to address. And there was one decision here. Tell me what did you make of the red card for Johan Grobbelaar? I think when you look at that right now, that looks to me, okay, so I get it. Head contact is dangerous in rugby. There's never been more awareness. There's never been more player safety. They have the gum shields measuring G-force now, which gets people automatically removed from the game and checked from an HIA and stood down. There's independent doctors. Players are more aware. They have their baseline testings for HIA tests and all the rest of it. And that's all great. I appreciate protecting players. I just think there needs to be a bit of a calibration. And it's interesting that this comes at a time when you've got the discussion about a 20-minute red card, because some people think a red card for incidents like this is just too harsh, and maybe a full red card, you're out for the rest of the game and you might get a long ban. That should be reserved for egregious foul play, not just slight miscalculations. Now, Grobbelaar could definitely get lower. Equally, there is mitigation in the laws for high danger, a high degree of force, and you can see from that image there, it does not look like it looks quite a passive tackle from Grobbelaar. So I would have been okay with that being a yellow. I think it's important to point out when talking about this game, and a great win for Scarlets, it's important to point out this incident, as frustrated as some Bulls fans might be, it does not change the result. And it's absolutely vital to say that. Being disappointed about losing and blaming it on this decision is wrong, because I think it probably does meet the yellow card threshold. And even if it was just a yellow card, he would have been off the field when Scarlett scored what was the winning try. So it would not have changed the result, in my humble opinion. I think we might see a situation where you get a second red card in a row for Bulls, just like David Creel last week, which gets rescinded. I hope for Grobbelaar's sake that is the case. We'll wait and see on that. But it would not affect the result, and it shouldn't detract from what was a brilliant result for Scarlets. Showed a lot of resolve. Is there a resurgence in Welsh rugby on the way? Because they've been more competitive this year. There's been times last year when the Welsh sides just capitulated, and they seem a little bit more tougher mentally as much as anything. And Scarlets definitely showed that. Tame Plumtree had a really, really good game. Good week for the Plumtree family, wasn't it? Bulls, though, second game in a row that they imploded in the second half. And talking about the fortitude of the Welsh mentally, I think that's just a bit of weakness in the Bulls as well mentally. I think it is a top 2 inches thing, because there's no doubt they've got the talent. I do wonder about Jake White's selection, because leadership's really important, especially when you're going on the road on the other side of the world. And he decided to stand down Norkia and Elric Lowe for this one, 2 leaders. And Kurt Sear wasn't in the starting 15 either, so that's a lot of leadership. Like your captains, none of them in the side. That said, they should have had enough, but then there were changes made in the second half, and the people that came off the bench, it just seemed to fall away. As soon as Villy LaRue went off, it's like no Villy LaRue, no win for the Bulls. He is that important to them. And so I would question, and it's easy to say this after the fact, but I would question some of the selections and the use of the replacements as well. And I don't think their 9-10 combo is good enough. That said, they had a lot of chances to win, and they butchered a load of them. Loads and loads of entries into the 22, and they just weren't accurate enough. And for that reason, not a red card, Bulls probably lost the game for themselves. It should have been irrelevant of what cards were or were not given out. So a really good win for Scarlets. And a strong win for Ulster as well. Cubed, he's looking good, isn't he? He's like rolling back the years at the minute. It's Jacob Stockdale. He scored another try. Ospreys deleted. Their morale seems low. They were no match for Ulster. It was a bonus point in 25 minutes. Stuart McCloskey looks really, really good. And I can't help, every time I watch Stuart McCloskey, I just think, I wish he were English. Because if he was English, he'd have, I don't know how many international caps he'd have. Loads. Because we've been crying out for an inside centre. We've been relying on Manu Tuilangi with his hamstrings made of elastic bands. And McCloskey hasn't got nearly as many caps for Ireland because he lives at a time when Robbie Henshaw's been around, and now Jamie Osborne, who I'll come on to, but McCloskey's brilliant. Ospreys' defence wasn't great. Their attack was worse, and they were forcing it a bit. They should have just kicked a bit more territory, in my opinion. Harry Sheridan, as a young guy for Ulster, he looks really good as well. But this was one of the biggest mismatches of the weekend, wasn't it? And a good win for Ulster. A win. I was going to say a good win for Lions. A win. Any win on the road is a good win. But they kind of got out of Parma by the skin of their teeth, didn't they? 9-10. One of the least entertaining games of rugby. Glad I didn't watch it live and watch the whole thing. I was able to fast forward through and just kind of watch it in bits because there wasn't a lot of highlights. A lot of lowlights. Small margins at this level. Big moments fell for the Lions. Zebre could have and should have won this game. I mean, these are two teams that you don't think, oh, they're going to be good wet weather teams. And it was muddy, it was wet, there were lots of mistakes. It was just going from knock-on to scrum, to knock-on to penalty, it was just not a fun game to watch. Very tense. Zebre should have won. They had opportunities to score tries and blew it. And when their try for Edwil van der Merwe did come for the Lions, it was off the back of Fusco, was it? Just with a bit of a brain-dead decision to push and shove. And yeah, that led to the Lions' try. So Zebre will be absolutely gutted about that one. Lions, they're 4 from 4, and they're going to Leinster. The two unbeaten teams going head-to-head. Interesting. Sharks, Glasgow. I've got a whole video in the feed already. I watched this game yesterday evening and did a reaction to the full straight after the full-time whistle. So if you haven't seen that, go and watch it. Good win for Sharks with all the box back in the side. Glasgow did really well to get 2 losing bonus points. That would be the headline there, but I'd say go and watch the video with my reaction at full-time to that. Same with Stormers against Munster. Much more convincing for Stormers. Munster, scrum, line out, really bad. Graham Rowntree looks so frustrated, sounded so frustrated in his post-match interview, and I understand why. John Dobson, meanwhile, will be much more happy with that Stormers performance than the ones they've been putting in the last couple of weeks. As I say, go and check out the video in the channel to see that one as I focus on Edinburgh against Cardiff. 27 points to 8. I should have said it was Sharks 28, Glasgow 24, Stormers 34, Munster 19. It was 27-8 to Edinburgh, which doesn't tell the picture. That sounds like it was a bit of a blowout for Edinburgh. It was far from that. They were down at half-time, in fact, 5 points to 3. Low scoring, and it was 4 second-half tries that got Edinburgh the bonus point and the win. And Cardiff completely fell to pieces in the last 20 minutes. I don't know what happened. Their discipline went to pot. They seemed rattled. They seemed annoyed at the referee. And again, it's psychological... psychology and leadership are absolutely massive in this competition, especially when you go away from home. It feels like it's really hard to get wins on the road in the URC. And Cardiff were doing well, but like I say, just imploded. The scoreline flatters Edinburgh in fairness, but the areas that they scored their tries, both their wingers, Darcy Graham and Duan van der Merwe scored, and it was Schoeman and Ashman, 2 in the front row, scored, and those were the 2 areas that Edinburgh had an edge. Right up front and out wide, and those are where the mismatches came in the end, and Darcy Graham looked good again. And with Kyle Steyn being out injured, it could be the 2 Edinburgh wingers lining up for Scotland in the end-of-year test that are coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll wait and see on that one, but Ali Price looked really good as well. He's thrown his hat in the ring for Scotland duty. If he keeps playing like that, and his box kicking looked good, and with these test matches coming at a time of year when it is wet and windy and it can be inhospitable, actually good game management is massively important. And Ali Price, to his credit, did that in this game. Good win for Edinburgh. 2 in a row from them after having a shaky start. Onwards then, and Connacht at 12, Leinster 33. And again, just like last week in that Leinster v Munster match at Croke Park, this one in Galway this time, and it was an early blitz at the start of the match that ultimately got Leinster on the way, and they never really looked back. It was 2 early tries, early blitz, not quite as comprehensive as the early blitz against Munster, but 2 tries in that first quarter, and then and one of them from Jamie Osborne, I'll come on to him in a minute, and another from RG Sneeman just before half-time, just like last week. That guy is a freak, and Munster fans must be pulling their hair out, because not only is Sneeman playing really, really well, he's playing week after week after week. Leinster fans must be loving that even more. I think he's already becoming a legend at Leinster, as much as anything, because yes, he's an amazing player, but also because it's quite funny how, for them, not so funny for Munster fans, but it's quite funny how much it looks like, touch wood for Sneeman, how much they're going to be able to have him this season, and how little Munster had him over the last 3 years, despite paying him massive amounts of cash. 21-5 at half-time it was. They were just a class above the whole time. I really enjoyed Bundiaki's hit on which one of the Osbornes was it? Was it Jamie Osborne passing the ball to his younger brother Andrew, and then Aki just absolutely wiped him out, or it was the other way around. I can't remember. One of them gave a hospital pass to the other, and Aki just smoked them. But there you go. Yeah, you've got another one, and apparently there's more Osbornes in the Leinster production line in their factory somewhere, just on the production line, about to come out and be rolled out in the years ahead. But Andrew Osborne was there. But Jamie Osborne, this guy, he looks so legit. I talked about him last week, and he's been looking really good for a while now. And I think he's going to get some genuine minutes in the upcoming international window, and he deserves it as well, because at whatever stage he plays at, however big the game, he just seems to look comfortable, and he looked really, really good in this one. Jacques Nienaber's defensive system looks like it's doing a job. Leinster in the last 3 games, I think they're at like just under 10 points a game that they're conceding, and they're quite happy without the ball. In fact, they're kicking the ball away a lot and trusting their defence. I think Connacht had the ball for 60% possession in this whole match. So Leinster looking in a very good place to me. And they've got like 4 or 5 hookers out injured at the minute and still dealing with it. One to watch, Kieran Frawley went down and went off after about 15 minutes. We'll wait and see how serious that injury is. But a convincing win for them. Dragons 21, Benetton 31. Again, it was close at half-time. Benetton stretched away in the second half. Try these at either side of half-time. Won the game for Benetton. Dragons got themselves in front and then... those 2 tries just before half-time, just after half-time, got Benetton in front and then stretched their lead, and they never looked back from there. One thing to watch, I'm watching you, Benetton, and Zebre. I don't know if it's the influence of Italian football, but I spotted a couple of dives in the games involving Italian teams. This is rugby. This is not football. So let's stop that right now. But Benetton are looking better game on game. One thing I will say is, at Rodney Parade, can you get better floodlights, please? It always just looks so dark and dingy there, so that would be nice. Maybe it was the TV cameras, I don't know. But there you go, that wraps up the weekend's rugby, and those are the fixtures that we have got to look forward to. And we've got the 2 unbeaten teams going head-to-head. Leinster against the Lions on Saturday evening. Remember, these games are the last games before a full month break, and this is the end of a 6-week block. We're going to know much more about the teams, where they're at, what they need to do, what improvements they need to make, because it's almost like having another pre-season. Yes, a lot of players will lose their international stars, but things will keep ticking over within the organisations. So they'll want to finish strongly in this block of games. I think you're going to see a lot of full-strength teams put out in this one, knowing that they need the points before the break, and then they'll go into another kind of mini pre-season for a month. But Leinster v Lions, the pick of the games, first v second, 2 unbeaten teams, but then Sharks v Munster could be tasty. Munster will want a reaction, and Glasgow will have had another week on South African soil and will go to Cape Town to face the Stormers. Those 2 games look really, really interesting. Benetton against Bulls as well. Can Benetton keep the wagons rolling? Can Bulls come away from their European tour with another win on the road, or are they going to get scuppered again? Some really, really interesting games. Scarlets could win another game in a row home to Zebre. They'll certainly fancy themselves. Connacht will fancy themselves to get a win at home to Dragons. Cardiff, Ulster, that's going to be a tricky one for Ulster to go to. Ospreys, Edinburgh, again, both teams capable of winning that one. It should be a really competitive weekend of games, and as the week moves on and we get closer and teams start getting announced and players' injuries start getting talked about, I'll be back on the channel with a video looking ahead to round 6. Don't forget to check out the Premiership content, which is coming on the channel soon, all the club rugby content which I'm supporting, and the international rugby, which is just around the corner. So hit subscribe if you haven't already. See you on the next video.